Hey, everybody, and welcome to If You Don't Like That. Napes and Rhino in Sacktown. Of course, we are going over this morning's press conference by the Kings' new general manager, Scott Perry. We want to get your feedback. Give us a phone call, or you can hit us up on the chat line. Definitely want your reaction. Rhino, what was your reaction?
Mixed, Grant. He did what he needed to do, but I'll ask you this. How'd you feel about one microphone being up there?
It's embarrassing. The fact that he had no introduction, the fact that Vivek Ranadive was not there, tells you everything you need to know. It was embarrassing. I mean, it's just an absolute joke that the owner of the franchise is not there next to the guy that he hired. And the reason is he doesn't want to answer any questions. I mean, that's what it's all about. And that's why it's it's a franchise that has no direction. And we're going to get into a lot of the things that Scott Perry said, and first and foremost about the coach. But it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. There's no other way to say it.
Yeah, Vivek may have been fielding more questions, Grant, than Scott if he had been up there at that press conference. But
Right.
you got to introduce him. You got to do something.
Well, not only that, you're the owner of the team, and with the ownership comes a responsibility. And if you're not able to sit up there in front of the media and answer a couple of questions, you're in the wrong business.
100%. And as you said, one of the most popular topics right now, who is going to be coaching the Kings going forward? Scott did not give a lot of timelines, but in response to the question about the head coaching position, here's what he had to say.
Well, you're looking at a guy who's a veteran of so many coaching searches, I can't even count them right now. But what I can tell you is I've spent time with Doug Christie already. I first met Doug Christie when he was a player at Toronto. So I admired him as a player, his career. I've watched him this year from afar in terms of his ability to have a presence on the court. I think he's made a connection with players. We've had a few conversations up to this point. He was one of the first people I met with yesterday when I got into town. So I've only been here a little longer than 24 hours. With that said, my phone has incessantly rang for interest in this job. So I'm going to have a few more conversations in and around about this job. And hopefully I can come to some sort of resolution within the next week or so in terms of having a decision or announcement to inform everybody.
1 week timeline, Grant. Surprised.
All right, let me tell you exactly what's going on. And if I'm wrong, you know me. I will come on right here on If You Don't Like That, and I'll tell everybody I'm wrong. This is just a way to make it seem like they did a thorough search, and then Doug Christie ended up being the best candidate. Doug Christie next week will be named by Scott Perry as the new coach going forward. And if I'm wrong, I'll come on and say I'm wrong. This is just window dressing. That's what this is. This is nothing more than window dressing. This is to give the appearance that due diligence was done in a coaching search and that the new GM at the end of the process felt that Doug was the best person going forward. You and I both know that is not true. That is just window dressing. And that's all this was today, window dressing. And again, if I'm wrong, I'll come on and say, hey, you know what? I got it wrong. And you want to attack me and call me an idiot and you want to criticize me, I'll be more than happy to take the criticism. But I'm telling you right here on April 23rd, that comment to the question was window dressing.
I couldn't agree more with you. The fact that he talked about building the front office out, that it was going to take him, Grant, at least a couple of weeks to meet with everybody and decide that who's in, who's a fit, who doesn't want to be here. But it's going to be a week for the coaching search with all these people calling your phone, which, Grant, I don't think there's a lot of phone calls unless you need a paycheck that are hitting him up. It's Doug all the way. Absolutely.
It is Doug. It's Doug all the way. And I think that we should just move forward knowing that that's going to be the situation. And Scott Perry will be next to Doug Christie next week at another press conference. And he will field questions and he'll say, you know what I did? I talked to a lot of interested candidates. I had many conversations with Doug. And at the end of the process, I felt Doug was the best guy going forward. This decision, in my opinion, was already made by the owner of the Kings, Vivek Ranadive. And all it's doing is it's trying to give the appearance that Perry's the guy that's making the decision on this. And by prolonging it, it's giving that impression. But I'm just telling you, Doug Christie is the guy, and he'll be named the coach next week or the following week. With the explanation by Perry is he ended up being the best available candidate.
Is there part of you that's surprised that that wasn't done today with Scott Perry?
Yes and no. Had it been done today, then there would be no doubt about the fact that Vivek Ranadive had hired Doug Christie. The Kings are trying to pull one over your eyes here. They're trying to pull a fast one over you by waiting a week or two to give the appearance that other candidates were interviewed. And then at the end of the process, Doug was the guy.
So, okay, let's assume that you are right and we're in agreement. A lot of people in the chat are. Who's the next guy? Who's the right guy to be next to Doug? Or does Doug even get to build his staff?
I can't answer that question at all. I know that you had Jerry on talking about this, and Jerry mentioned a couple of names. The only thing I did not agree with Jerry is, why would Scott Brooks leave the Lakers and a place that he calls home in Huntington Beach, a franchise that is ascending, to come to Sacramento to work with Doug Christie? It doesn't make any sense. Here's the other deal. There are two ways of looking at this. If I'm a Scott Brooks or someone like that, and I want to be a head coach again, going to Sacramento is probably my best opportunity because, and this is no disrespect, it's just a reality, Doug will probably not have the job long. And then the guy that's sitting next to him would move over and in all likelihood take his position. So there's that. But the word is out on Vivek Ranadive. And the reality is, there aren't a lot of coaches licking their chops to come to Sacramento. So I agree with Jerry on one hand. It would be great to have assistants with head coaching experience that Doug could lean on. But again, if you're Scott Brooks, and that's one of the names he mentioned, why would you leave your situation now to come to Sacramento?
Well, because he's a Sacramento guy, Grant. He's from Northern California. He understands the Sacktown magic.
He's from Manteca, but he's had a place in Huntington Beach for years, which they have called home, the Brooks family. Yeah. They love it there. I don't see that happening. I really don't.
I'm sorry. I just got a comment. I should have told you this off the air. You look tremendous tonight. You are glowing. Did you do something different with the skincare, the lighting? What is it?
It's just, my it's the new 65 trying to be 55.
All right.
Thank you for that. It's the same. Maybe your eyes are just different today.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? So,
but again, back to the coaching decision. I believe it's already been made. I believe Doug Christie's already been told he's going to be the guy. And this is just a behind the scenes plan to make it seem like Scott Perry's hiring a coach and not Vivek Ranadive. That's all this is.
You've been through way more fan unrest than I have, Grant, but I think there's no way that you can have anybody else coach the team but Doug Christie, because the fans are restless. They're starting to see through this Vivek, whatever you want to call it, illusion, this whole search to find Scott Perry that was not there. By all accounts, could have been hired hours after the game. You're always going to have part of the fan base that is going to stay loyal when Doug's coaching the team. Even if the team's bad, it keeps at least that loyalty there.
See, I don't agree with you, because the fans turned down Vlade Divac, who was arguably the most popular player in franchise history. The fans will turn on Doug too, because fans are fans. All right. I mean, there was a lot of criticism after the Dallas game about Doug. Right. We took phone calls on this program. You saw it on social media. Yep. I did a poll, not scientific, on my X account. 62% of the people that responded, and a number of about 2,000, said they didn't want Doug back as coach. I also did an informal poll here on if you don't like that, yes or no. Yes, do you want Doug back? No, you don't want him back. And the no's were about 95%. So I don't necessarily agree with that.
Yeah, but Vlade's judged on, and it's not fair, but really one move, passing on Luka.
Yes.
That's what people think of. And basketball coaches get 82 games a year. That was one game for Doug. So
Not really. I mean, the Kings lost 13 of 20 coming down the stretch. Just a week before that game, they lost at Orlando by 40, and they lost to Washington, the worst team in the Eastern Conference as well. Yes, they did beat Cleveland and they did beat Detroit, but like that doesn't just make believe that the Washington and Orlando games didn't happen. Kings
Right.
did not. The Kings' record was terrible the last month of the season.
yeah, and very confusing how they got up for some and did not get up for others. So if you want to get in on the conversation, hit the link that's in the chat. We'll be taking your calls. Scan the QR code as well. We'd love to hear from you, and keep the chats coming. It's nice being back together. It's been a little bit, but
Yeah, it has been. I think we need to do this more often. I enjoy chatting with you. Your show in the afternoons is great. Love
Thank
the
you.
fact that you have Jerry's on now Tuesdays in the off season. I think that's great. That was a tremendous segment you had with Jerry that I watched yesterday. And it's good that people know that every Tuesday they can join you with Jerry and everything else you've got going on. That's what I love to get across to Kings fans. We're not going anywhere. There's going to be a lot of news upcoming. There's going to be a lot of news leading up to the draft and free agency. And just for the record, I'm not against Scott Perry. I'm not anti Scott Perry. I mean, I'm not crazy about his resume, but I like him. I know Scott not well, but I mean, I've been with Scott. I've had lunch with Scott. We've conversed. He's a likable guy. As you saw today in the press conference, he's got a tremendous personality. He's also got a shtick. You call it, and I saw you on X today, and I think it was very well said that Scott Perry used to sell cars. I mean, again, he's got that type of personality that can be a little over the top at times. And I thought some of his answers today were, a little over the top, a little gimmicky. But Scott's not stupid. Scott's a very bright man. He knows he's in an impossible situation. I mean, if you could sit right now in a back room with Scott and have a beer, and he knew that nothing that was said would ever escape that room, he would tell you he's in an impossible situation. He knows that. I mean, he's making Vivek sound like God. They had this great relationship. Scott Perry's been around the block a couple times. Scott Perry's not stupid. Scott Perry knows exactly what he's walking into. He knows exactly what he's dealing with Vivek, and he's got a guaranteed contract. He's 61 years old, and he and his wife, after this deal, can ride off into the sunset and enjoy the rest of their lives. He's no dummy.
She was sitting front row today. He acknowledged her. Now, talking about not being a dummy in awkward conversations, it's not too long ago, and Scott even mentioned the podcast that he had been a part of up until this hiring. He had some comments about Zach LaVine, Grant, and for those that haven't heard him, this was his take on Zach LaVine.
No question that Zach LaVine can score the basketball. He has proven that his 9 years in the NBA. I know this is his 10th season. He has shot the ball well. He's a career 38% three-point shooter, explosive athlete. He has proven that he can score the basketball. Next thing that I look at is, does he impact winning? Zach LaVine has been to one playoff series in 9 years. So he's played a total of four playoff basketball games. So now I say to myself, I'm looking at paying 40 this year, 43, 46, and 49 million in subsequent years for a guy who, to this point, has not impacted winning to the level that his money says he should impact. So there's not a real match there, in my opinion. Now, as I look at the teams, and you bring up a good point, Mo, when you start talking about him as a third option, which I think is the best fit.
Grant, Zach LaVine can't be a third option in Sacramento.
How about that, huh?
It's a lot of money. I mean, that's who you're building around. And that's the conversation that you got to address walking into the building. If you're Scott Perry, he said that he talked to Zach, he talked to some of the players, but that is now the piece that you have to theoretically build around because he's going nowhere.
I believe he said he talked to all the players, but
Yep.
regardless if he doesn't need to talk to all the players, it's April 23rd. There's nothing going on right now. That will happen in due time, and he'll have conversations. Scott's a communicator, as you saw that today. He's a communicator, and he's also he's no dummy, as I said. He's been around the block, and he gets it. And he also knows that part of his big job here is to win the PR battle. He knows the history of the Kings. He understands that there's a lot of negativity. He understands there's a lot of skepticism with this franchise. So, in addition to everything else, he's trying to win the PR battle to get everybody on his side.
Yeah, and what do you think that first move is? He talked about length, athleticism, defense. If you're Scott Perry, what are you hitting first, Names?
Point guard.
Agree. That never came up once today during the press conference. Not once.
Point guard.
It's got to be point guard.
Maybe my memory's not correct. I believe he did mention that. I believe
Did
he did
he?
say that. I believe he did mention that, we don't have a true point guard, and that's something
Okay.
that, yeah, I
Okay.
believe I heard
Missed
him
that.
say that.
Good job by you. I got to clean out my ears and check my eyes.
Well,
Yeah, homework.
I could be wrong, but I believe he did say that, one thing we don't have is we don't have a true point guard. And he did address that earlier in the press conference.
All right. Very good. Also, was asked once, he kind of ducked the question, but then a great job by Michelle Dapper. She asked again about how much he was going to be able to operate autonomously without Vivek Ranadive.
Our relationship with Vivek.
Take us back.
Hi, Scott. Michelle again over here in the back. Just curious.
Oh,
right
okay.
here.
All right.
With all this, just how closely are you going to be working with Vivek with all of these decisions? Has he given you full control to say, I'm going to hire the coach, I'm going to add these players to the roster, or do you plan to work with him?
Look, obviously Vivek owns the team, and I've worked with Vivek before, and I enjoy a very healthy and positive relationship with him. But make no mistake, he has empowered me to lead this team and make critical decisions. Now, will I talk to him often about different things in this team? Absolutely. It only makes sense. There's a saying that will be prevalent throughout my tenure here and within our office. I want diversity of thought, but with unity of purpose. And that's what we're going to be led by. And so that starts with my relationship.
I don't even know how to comment on that, really.
Time will tell. Time will tell. It begins with the coaching position, right? As you said earlier.
Again, Scott Perry is not a dummy. He's a very bright man, and he's been around the block a couple times. He knows exactly what he's getting into. And again, he knows he's in an impossible situation. And I wish him luck. I really do. I wish Scott Perry luck, but this is going to be a disaster.
We will see his last time around the block being in the New York front office. 2017, 29 wins, 2018, 17 wins, 2020, 21 wins. Then they got to 500 in 2021, 41 wins, 37 wins, and then in 2023, 47 wins.
I read a bunch of numbers on my show earlier in the week. If you don't mind, I'll read them again, okay?
Yeah, please.
This goes back to entering the 2021 season. He had no winning seasons, one 500 season, and his lifetime win percentage was .328.
Wow.
3 years as head coach of Eastern Kentucky, his record was 19-61, a winning percentage of .238. All right. So he has a lot of experience, but he doesn't have a lot to show for it in terms of success. Does that mean he can't be successful in Sacramento? No, it doesn't mean that. I'm only going by what has happened to this point.
Yeah, and to be fair, I guess walking into this situation, Grant, it is a high-level situation. Is there a harder situation or a situation you put it up into in the NBA?
It depends how you define, you know, hard. Do you mean becoming a winning team? Then yes, it's probably uh, maybe the most difficult situation currently to win because of your owner and because of some of the contracts that you are inheriting as the general manager. So, yeah, there's a lot of pessimism around the country from the Brian Windhorst of the world and other
Oh
national
yeah.
media members. They know, they're not stupid. They see what's going on in Sacramento. So, yeah, it's a monumental challenge, no question about that. And you don't, unless you get the bounce of the ping pong ball, I think you have a 3% chance of being a top 4 pick. You're not going to have a first round pick this year.
Yep, you only get the 42nd pick,
Right.
and you're gonna have to make the most out of that one, or try to get back into the first round and make a move or two before then. So
Yep.
we will see.
Again, he's got a monumental task in front of him. And again, I think that next week or the week after, when they name Doug Christie as the coach, this is just window dressing. I'm just telling you, this is window dressing. I will be shocked with a capital S if the new coach is somebody other than Doug.
I'm with you. You know, Wilson always loves trying to get you into your transitions. Always giving you a helping hand.
Sunrise Landing might be a little bit too long of a drive for Scott Perry. All right, that might be a little bit. Calusa to Golden One Center might be a little bit of a trip, but the nice thing is you have different choices: I-5, Highway 20, Highway 45. And here's the other thing: if Scott is interested, let me give Scott the web address. It's CalusaSunrise.com. You can play golf because the Calusa Golf and Country Club is adjacent to Sunrise Landing. So you've got that. You got beautiful models to choose from, Scott, 6 in all. You got various lot sizes. And it's all there for you from Blazona Development. So you go to CalusaSunrise.com, Scott, and you'll get all the information that you need. If you need to contact Scott, hit me up. I'll help you out.
Yeah, the last time we referred somebody there was Zach Levine. I think he suggested 5 houses for Zach
Yes,
Levine. So
that's correct.
maybe
That's
Scott
right.
can get one on the other side of Sunrise.
Yeah, on the other side. There you go. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. If the Kings win the draft lottery, will it change the franchise in the city? I can dream, right?
Well, if they were the number 1 pick, which I think they have a 1% chance of that happening, not necessarily. I mean, the Phoenix Suns had the number 1 pick in the Luka Doncic draft, and they took DeAndre Ayton. Did that change their franchise? I
Nope.
mean, you got to still take the right person. Most people believe Connor Flagg's the guy,
Coop.
but there are no guarantees unless there's a David Robinson, Tim Duncan, LeBron James type coming out. And I don't know if I would put Flagg in that category.
Yeah, and the draft is very top heavy too.
Yeah.
It's gonna be one of those ones that's kind of closer to last year, a lot are saying, than past years with the big guys coming in. Getting some good love about Bennett, a lot of good feedback there. Let's see. I could never figure out what Doug Christie's overall coaching strategy was, if he actually had one, from Amar. You know, he likes to teach guys how to play instead of a play.
There's a lot of truth to that. I've gone around and about, and most of the people that are watching this know exactly how I feel about Doug as a head coach. I don't think he's a head coach right now. He could be down the road, but I don't think currently right now he's the right man for the job if this franchise wants to really go where they need to go. I just don't. I'm sorry. And Scott Perry is going to hire Doug. I think Doug will be on a very short leash. And if things don't work out, I could see Doug having a one and done year. I really could.
Interesting that you think he would be on a short leash.
I do think it'd be a very short leash. Absolutely.
Very interesting. I guess we'll see with the moves and what he's given. You just have so many, you have these main ingredients, Grant, and you don't have the side dishes to go with them to make everything blend together. And if you had to pick one guy on the roster right now under contract that you think is most likely to be moved by Scott, where are you looking?
I think DeMar DeRozan is the most likely guy to be moved.
I'm with you. This is the right time to be looking at the teams that might need a DeMar DeRozan, a team that falls short
Right.
in the playoffs, that has the picks, has a player you could use.
Right. So, right now the Kings don't have a first round pick. They might be able to acquire one, but I don't know if you really want that in this draft, as you said, unless you can get up high. And that you're not going to get that for DeMar DeRozan at his age and this status. And I don't think a team that is a non-playoff team would want DeMar DeRozan. I think DeMar DeRozan would go to a team that's on the brink of winning a championship, who can be like their sixth man, a guy that can come off and give them great stability from the bench. That's the role I see for DeRozan.
Speaking of DeMar, you saw the incident that happened with him down in Southern California. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it was just an absolute despicable act by the individual that created the fracas. Do I think DeRozan lost his cool a little bit? Yes. But to me, it was just some guy looking for a quick cash grab. That's how I viewed it. How about you?
Yeah, exactly the same. But the fact that he was able to get that close and DeMar had to take a second to realize that it was a phone. Thank goodness it was a phone.
Yeah, I always ask someone, put yourself in DeMar's shoes. How would have you reacted? You don't come up to a person like that in a public place. This was an individual that knew it was DeRozan, who was like, okay, let me see if I can, have something, an altercation where I can get a quick settlement for a quick $100,000 and be on my way. That's what that is.
Yep, 100%. And they don't need any more run for what they did. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. Somebody said the Rockets could use DeRozan. You know what? He'd be perfect for the Houston Rockets. That's a great example. A team that's not there yet in all likelihood. Could you imagine DeMar DeRozan being coming off the bench for that team, or even starting? But as a bench player, can you imagine him fitting in on that team? See, that's a great message we just received on the chat line.
Yeah.
And by the way, Houston is leading Golden State in the third, 75-60, trying to even up that series. But I don't think they're a championship team this year. But can you imagine DeRozan on that team?
Well, especially the leadership, too, because you're probably going to have Van Vliet out the door and somebody that can bring you a different style. And they have enough of a balance where they can let DeRozan go into that ISO ball and still be able to push up tempo.
We're getting a lot of questions, and we thank you for the super chat earlier. Do I remember a GM being introduced without the owner? And I don't. I mean, I'm sure it's probably happened, but I don't recall it. It's just, again, I'm going to keep saying this. There's a right way and a wrong way to do business. And the Sacramento Kings too often do it the wrong way. It's unfortunate. The owner needs to be there. The owner needs to introduce the general manager. And if the owner doesn't want to take questions, he can just say, I'm not here to take questions today. This is Scott Perry's day, and I'm here to introduce him. I'm proud to have him here, but I will not be taking questions. I mean, if that's the way you feel, at least make an appearance and say that.
Yeah, he's been making appearances at A's games, but it's been quite a while since he's been in front of the media. Basketball-wise, probably a bit overdue, considering what's happened. I mean, can you remember another owner in sports, let alone basketball, that's had these big changes and is just stayed away?
Not off the top of my head. By the way, Joseph says, how do I know, Grant, that the fan wanted an autograph and was attacked? Because the video doesn't lie. That's why.
Yeah.
The video told me everything I needed to know about that altercation.
And he kept coming back at DeRozan. You're my hero. You're my hero. Yeah. What Grant said, spot on. What I thought was interesting.
So in a nutshell, let's just get to the meat of this. I asked you your thoughts on the press conference. You said some good and some bad.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that Scott was in a very difficult situation today, coming into this situation with this owner. And Scott has a pulse of the fans. He knows. I'm not saying being in his shoes would be easy today, but there were certainly a lot of questions that were sidestepped, and he just gave the politically correct answers. And I get that, but that's what that was.
I didn't think he set the expectations too high, but as a Kings fan, or at least us following, and the fans watching, we know what Vivek's usually going to do. And so I'm looking for a personality that gives me confidence that you
Yep.
might be able to play that game a little bit better. You might be able to stand up to him. He didn't sell me on that today. He just, didn't.
Like the answer, we need toughness. Our Sacramento Kings players need to play hard. Blah. That's just a bunch of crap. Like, that's just the standard BS answer that is just like, come on, really? Like, you're paying athletes 20, 30, 40, 50 million dollars, and we need to hear from the general manager they need to play hard. We already know that,
Yeah, I wonder if fans were rubbed the wrong way, because much like I had to do when we heard Scott's name, I'm like, okay, Scott Perry. And I start digging, and you've done a great job with some of the numbers and telling about your experiences. But the way that he made it seem at the podium, he's like, every single member of the championship Pistons called me when I got the job. All my college players called me. It just seemed, I don't want to say disingenuous, but almost like he's more important and we should know that already.
He's a
It's kind of
salesman.
weird. Yeah.
He's a salesman. That's what he is. And again, I'm going to keep saying this for those that are joining late. I like Scott. I like him, and I hope he succeeds. But he's got a shtick to him. He's got a shtick, and if you didn't see that today, then you weren't paying attention.
Yep, no doubt. You think DeMar DeRozan, or not DeMar? Do you think Sabonis is feeling any better today about the direction of the franchise?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I would think not as well. Why would they do that? They're not going to retire the Beam. Come on, get out of here. Did you get a chance to see the Athletics anonymous player poll this year?
I did. I saw the news on Tyrese Halliburton was very interesting to me, as he has his team up 2-0 against Milwaukee, and I thought that was rather interesting.
Yep, I thought that was interesting. I thought the gambling question was interesting as well. And then you had a whole nother article written about the gambling aspect of it. Players 46% not in favor of the league taking the ad revenue.
I don't blame them. You know what? I'll tell you why. It puts extra pressure on the players and a lot of extra scrutiny, and also some violence that they are encountering if they have a bad game and some schizo lost a lot of money and they want to make it personal for the player, right? Now, we also have to understand that gambling has been going on since the beginning of time, but we're talking about legalized sports gambling now, as opposed to going through a bookie. And there's a lot more people gambling on the NBA than ever before.
The barrier to get into gambling, unless you lived in a state where it's legal, was very high. You had to find a bookie, right, Grant? It's much different now. All you got to do is turn on the app on your smartphone.
No question. All right. Do we have any? We got some phone calls we're going to get to or not?
We do, but my screen's frozen, so I'm going to let you get to it.
All right. Well, we don't want you to be frozen. Let's see if we can get to Charlie. Charlie, go ahead. You're on with Grant and Rhino.
Yeah, Charlie. You weren't there when the fan was attacked by DeRozan. You weren't there, sir.
Oh my God, Charlie, you're an idiot. As soon as I heard your voice, I was like, "Why did I take him?"
Yeah.
I didn't have to be there. I saw the video. I didn't have to be there. And listen, I'm not saying DeMar DeRozan is in the clear. He could have restrained himself better. But after looking at the video of the idiot in the ambulance going to the hospital, that told me everything I needed to know. Yeah. I mean, that told me everything I needed to know about that situation.
Yeah, you're clenching your hand, taking the shot of your legs.
You're in an ambulance, really?
Yeah, DeMar DeRozan's attorney just needs to play that video.
That's all
you need to do.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
incredible.
There's actually an argument legally that individual could be charged with assault, because assault has nothing to do with physically harming somebody. It is the fear of being physically harmed.
I hope he is.
DeMar jumped back.
So. I hope he is charged. I hope he is. Hey, don't forget about New Works Plumbing for all of your plumbing needs and repairs. Call that number on your screen. Go to sackserviceplumbing.com or newworksplumbing.com, WRXplumbing.com. New Works Plumbing, they've got a fix for you. They are awesome. So again, if you need plumbing issues, you have a repair that needs to be done, New Works Plumbing, they've got a fix for you. Get in touch with them.
Grant Paul asks a great question. He's upset about how the hiring of, everything that happened this year with the firing of Mike Brown, the firing of Monty, the hiring of Scott, and now what we're pending with Doug. How do you take him seriously as a fan?
Most people aren't taking them seriously, and most members of the media outside of Sacramento aren't taking them seriously. So to answer your question, how are you supposed to take them seriously? People don't take them seriously.
Bobby Marks, who is usually pretty mild with his remarks and very knowledgeable, he said he was talking to another person that covers the NBA, Grant, and they were talking about Vivek, and they both agreed that if Vivek agreed to go to an island and not do anything with basketball, not talk to the organization, and be guaranteed to have a top 6 team in the NBA when he returned, he wouldn't do it. Coming from Bobby Marks. That's crazy.
I agree. He wouldn't do it.
Wouldn't do it.
Nope. I totally agree with that. Yep. Vivek likes to be shown on TV and in photographs with famous people. That's what he likes.
Oh my gosh. Don't start me.
It's true. That's what he likes.
That last one was just an awkward family photo. Is it 50 Cent, Vivek's son, Peja?
Well, it's just that's what he's all about. That's what he's all about. I mean, can you imagine an owner of a professional sports franchise going to the Super Bowl and wearing an autographed Jerry Rice jersey when the Niners were playing the Chiefs? Think about that for a minute. A 60-year-old man, or however old he was at the time, the owner of a professional franchise going to the Super Bowl with an autographed Jerry Rice jersey. Think about that for a minute.
If he was holding it and getting ready to give it to his son, I mean, maybe I could think about that.
Yes. I mean, no, think about that for a minute.
And Jerry Rice, too.
Come on.
Jerry Rice's act. Oh, my God.
I mean, seriously.
Ibrahim, thanks for calling tonight, buddy.
Hey, what's up, guys?
How are you? Great to have you on.
Yeah, appreciate it. Nice to be on. I won't go on too long. I just watching the press conference today, kind of echoing what you both said. But I think for me, the thing that kind of rubs me the wrong way is I'm big on process over results. So if your process is solid, the results tend to follow eventually. But I was trying to think of, all the franchises in the NBA, who's lining up to hire Scott Perry. No offense to Scott Perry. I mean, he's got a proven track record and all that. And who's lining up to hire Doug Christie? I mean, when Scott Perry said, I hope to make a coaching announcement in the next week. Okay, so you're not going to hire anyone on a playoff team, realistically. I mean, you could interview them and announce it and all that, but you're not going to do that in a week. And unsolicited, you gave a 1-week timeline. So you're just trying to space out the news is the way I took that.
Yep.
Well, here's the deal. If Doug Christie's not named as Kings' new head coach, he won't be interviewed for any of the other vacancies that are currently available and will become available in the NBA. I mean, and that's not like sliding Doug. That's just being realistic. That's the reality of the situation.
Yeah, and that's how I feel with Scott Perry too. I mean, he's been available. I mean, after he lost the Knicks job, I mean, he hasn't even been floated really. I mean, and for me, it's more so the process too. I mean, Perry was around in that 3-month stretch when they scouted Fox, right? When they drafted
Vlade
Fox.
Divac was going to take De'Aaron Fox, whether Scott Perry was in Sacramento or was on the moon. So,
Yeah.
I mean, as soon as the Phoenix Suns took Josh Jackson to 4, the Kings put on their, made the phone call. We're taking De'Aaron Fox. Scott Perry had nothing to do with that.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at. That's kind of where I'm at with it too. Is I was trying to go through some of his draft choices, and he wasn't the number 1 in Orlando, but like Orlando in his tenure, I think it was like Oladipo and a few other guys. Nobody stood out with the Knicks. I mean, Quickly, they were hyping up the Quickly draft. I mean, quickly
Not
is
only
a
that,
solid player.
he wasn't the decision maker in New York the last couple of years.
That's the
He
whole, and
wasn't
that's
even
the
the
whole
guy.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
that's the whole point. But like, even if he was, I mean, even if he had input, I mean, they're not slam dunk draft picks. I mean, who knows? He might work, he might not. I mean, my thing is just the process is so flawed. Like, it's still Vivek's team. It'll be Vivek's team. I feel like I'm overly critical of Vivek, but you know,
Vivek
I-
wants a guy who's going to kiss his ass, who's going to schmooze him, that he can talk with. That's who he wants. So,
Yeah.
Vladdy was the same way. Vladdy knew how to talk to Vivek. They talked all the time. Vivek knew, Vladdy knew how to calm him down. Vladdy knew how to deal with him. Vladdy knew how to keep Vivek away from others that he was interfering with. Scott Perry will do the same thing and try to do the same thing. And Vivek, will have many, many, many conversations with Scott Perry. But I'm telling you, before the official start of summer, Scott Perry will learn to turn his phone off at night, which he doesn't do right now. I can guarantee you that.
yeah. The last thing I'll say is more so about kind of the timeline and everything. You're not going to be able to move Levine's contract, so you're glued to Zach Levine.
Yep.
And like what you both said, DeMar is the most tradable asset they have as far as, likely to be traded. They could trade Monk and Sabonis. Those are tradable assets, but I mean, could you get anyone better? I don't know if your goal is to win now. So all that points to, as long as Levine is on the books, your team has the ceiling it has. And so if Perry is going to do anything, it should be to try to just stack some young talent in the next 2 years, because you're not going to do anything with Levine on the books. But that's
Well,
just,
we're assuming Levine's going to stay healthy. 'Cause he did this year.
yeah. I mean,
Traditionally, that's not the case.
even if he is healthy, I mean, he's just he is what he is. He's not a winning player, and he puts up big numbers. I mean, I hate to just say. I mean, I know it's overused, like not a winning player, but that's what his track record says he is. I mean, he was the guy in Chicago, didn't do much, and I don't see him doing more here, even if he is healthy. But we'll see. But anyways, I'll give someone else a chance to come on. But appreciate the time as always.
Appreciate it. Grant, do you remember much about why the Knicks wanted Scott and why they came to get him out of Sacramento?
I can't remember. That was back in 2017. So I'm really, I can't remember from 8 years ago. For the record, Joseph, you say for the record, Grant Napier hates the Kings owners. First of all, my name is spelled Napear for the next one. I don't hate the Kings owner at all. That couldn't be further from the truth. I don't respect the Kings owner. I don't hate the Kings owner. I don't wish any ill will on Vivek Ranadive nor his children at all in any way, shape, or form. I don't respect the man. I don't hate the man. There's a big difference.
It's almost like that one playoff year bought him the goodwill to go back to his ways of hiring, because for once they put structure in place. We're going to have this independent team bring in the next, front office. And then you come to the complete opposite, because you had 1 year of success, Grant. You made the playoffs 1 year.
Yeah. 1 year. Yep. And has 3 playoff wins in his tenure as Sacramento Kings owner. Think about that for a minute.
Yeah.
Think about that. Since becoming the owner of the Kings, he only has 3 playoff wins to lean on. Think about that for a minute. 3.
Would I be crazy to say that the Kings have never left the rebuild state? They've only made the playoffs once in 18 years.
Yes, that's very fair to say. Correct. Yep.
I think that's what rubs me the wrong way is this fan base, I believe, if done the right way, would be okay with the rebuild. But doing it this way, the way that you back in, how Ibrahim said with the Levine contract, and there's no proper way, and you're going through the back channels, it appears to hire, that's just not good business.
Isn't it interesting that within minutes after the Kings lost the play-in to the Dallas Mavericks, Monty McNair was out, and before we put our head on the pillow, Shams Charania broke the news that Scott Perry was negotiating a deal to become the next Kings general manager. So you must ask yourself, how long was this going on for? Scott Perry was asked that today,
He was.
and he dodged the question by talking about how he met Vivek in 2017 and the relationship never ended and they've been talking since then and blah, blah, blah. He didn't answer the question. And the reason why he didn't answer the question was it was going on for some time before Monte McNair resigned or parted ways, which is another trademark of Vivek. He did it with Vladi. He's done it with everyone. He talks with people behind other people's backs when they have a job instead of doing what is right and fire the individual first, then talk to other candidates.
There's been some chatter social media, and I know you've addressed it before, but Vlade, how does he play into this front office? You've said he doesn't play into it whatsoever.
No. Vladi is on the business side now, not the basketball side. Does Vivek talk to Vladi? Yes. Well, obviously, they're seeing a lot together in public. I can almost guarantee you 100%, not 99, 100%, that Vladi has talked with Scott Perry several times leading up to him accepting the job and taking the job, and made it very clear to him that he has nothing to do with basketball decisions. Guarantee it, because I know Vladi, and we've talked about these things in the past. I know how he operates. You know, I'll tell you something. I'll share this story with you because I don't ever know this has happened before. When Monte McNair replaced Vlade Divac, Vlade called him and said, hey, I just want to let you know, I've got no hard feelings towards you. And if you need help in any regard with anything, I'm here for you and I will help you. How about that?
It's pretty special.
Yep.
That's a big person. Yep. Joseph, to me, this is the fundamental problem with thinking in Sacramento. Just because he saved the Kings, which he can have credit for, we all love the Kings, does not take away your right to have a well-ran product that you are paying a good price for. Two things can be true at once. We're not saying go protest, but this guy doesn't just get to ride for a free pass for the rest of the Sacramento Kings history because he bought the team and saved them. That's crazy.
Correct. Yeah. Yep. 100%. That's the honeymoon ended a long time ago, right? Correct. Is that correct?
I would, yeah. I mean, it really was not much after this moment that the honeymoon ended. This might have been the highlight of Vivek in Sacramento.
This is your team.
You remember that?
I sure do. Yeah.
And shortly thereafter, Michael Malone getting fired and started unrolling from there.
Well, we are happy that you are joining us here on If You Don't Like That, getting your reaction to today's presser with Scott Perry, the new Sacramento Kings general manager. And I think the most important thing from today's press conference was the timetable for formally announcing the new coach.
Yep. And I think that caught, especially because it was unsolicited. Our caller said that. That's all you need to know. Vivek's goodwill is over years ago. There you go. Winning will cure everything, but the West is good. If the Kings play hard, I don't see many wins. This is a different changing West, and this was right about the time you wanted to get competitive, right, Grant?
Yes, that's right. Yep. Very, very true. I did a rant today on the difference 2 basketball seasons makes. 2 seasons ago, the Kings had 48 wins and were the 3 seed in the West. Oklahoma City and Houston were non-playoff teams. Houston was the second worst team in the West 2 years ago. Oklahoma City was 40-42 the year that the Kings won 48 games. Now look at the standings. Oklahoma City 1, Houston 2. In the East that year, the Indiana Pacers, the Detroit Pistons, and Orlando Magic were non-playoff teams. The Pacers had 35 wins, and the Pistons had, I think, 17 wins. Look at where the Pacers and the Pistons are now. Look where the Kings are. See, that's another thing that is so frustrating about Sacramento is in the last 2 years, they have not only regressed to 2 straight missed playoff, appearances, but
Yeah.
the teams behind them have vaulted past them like light speed.
And you fumbled your opportunities to possibly catch up or at the very least keep pace. I know we can't judge the Fox trade for at least another half a year to a year,
Yeah.
but the timing, Grant, and the player you got in return, you can't excuse the position the franchise is in now because of it.
Nope.
You just
No,
can't.
you cannot, All right, let's get to another call. Hello, how are you? You're on with Grant and Rhino. Hello.
What's up,
Hey,
AJ?
oh hey,
How are
what's
you?
going on? My camera was not working there, and I
No,
prefer it
no
to be
problem.
off. Hey, I just hey, thanks for showing up. And oh man, I have so much on my mind. What I want to get to first is the fans that are getting on the channel, and welcome to the channel. And if you're expecting some type of utopian, jock sniffing, Homer type of takes, well, you should go to another channel, because here in the King's Court and with Mr. Napes, the redheaded stepchild of Sucktown, you're gonna get the. It may hurt, but it is true. We've been in a rebuilding process since Mitch Richmond got traded, and it's been a I'm an old head. I went to the games and paid like $10 for standing room onlys, and walked down in the third quarter and sat not courtside, but sat in the lower bowl. So I've paid my dues, and as far as and I'm willing, Rhino, you brought up a great point. The fans are very knowledgeable, and we understand rebuilding. We understand the game, but it is the way that it's going about it. And I know that Mr. Napes and Mr. Rhino aren't going to say we got to get in the streets and riot, because they don't believe in any type of violence or anything. But us as fans have to kind of pull together. We have more power, if you can believe it or not, than the jock sniffer owner. Of course, he's got the money, but if we don't support a losing product and it's an embarrassment, and he's running it like it's the kids zoo at Southland Park, it's unbelievable. It's not a hobby. There should be some type of and you guys can jump in anytime. There should be some type of recourse that if you're not building or making the proper decisions, the business decisions or basketball decisions, and it's just becoming, like collecting baseball cards like I do, something's got to be said. We can't be a laughingstock forever, or can we?
Well, you can, but the reality is you're a fan. You have the power to do what you want as a fan with your money by either supporting or not supporting. And I've been very open about this. I'm not going on this channel or any other broadcast entity and telling fans they should boycott. That's not what I do. If that's something you want to do and you want to get the other fans to do that, that's up to you. But I would never advocate that, because it's not in my core. But I'm not a season ticket holder for the Kings, but I would tell you this. I was a season ticket holder for most of my lifetime with the New York Giants. And if I really felt that way about the ownership, I could do something about it. I could get together with my friends. I could try to get a campaign going and say, hey, we're not going to support the team anymore. We're not going to spend their money anymore. I mean, I've never done that, but I mean, I could do that as a fan. You have the ability to do that. That's up to you. I can't make that decision for you.
I agree 100%. And I think the majority of people that listen to these type of podcasts are fanatics, understand the game, and have endured a lot of anguish, so to speak. I think it's whoove of the elders to say, we're kind of stuck. I mean, unless Perry could use his experience and his salesmanship. I only heard very small excerpts today because I was at work. I was popping in and out and listening. But I do have to say, about the 3 or 4 minutes of what I heard really gave me an upset stomach. and I go off of vibes and feelings, and
Yep.
I just get weird, just a funky type of word salady vibes from him. If he could somehow pull it off, though, and call in a favor and somehow talk the jock sniffer into moving Levine and somebody would take him. I mean, I love DeMar. He's probably our most
Nobody's
tradable.
taking Levine. Nobody's
I
taking
know.
Zach Levine.
I know. It's I got a little PK running through my veins right now. I can't, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe we're in this spot.
Well-
But there's positivity, guys. I want to say this to all the fanatics out there. There's positivity in what's going on. We have to go through the desert, even though it's like 25 years. Somehow, some way, the light is behind. There's a silver lining. I hope they keep Keegan. I hope they keep Ellis. I mean, for the money and the way they play, we have to build around a mentality and a defense and some type of structure of motion offense and ball movement. Man, I miss Coachy. I can't believe I'm saying I miss the Maloofs. How crazy is that? And so, and I miss you too, redheaded stepchild of
Thank you,
Sucktown.
buddy.
I really love you, man. I
Thank
love
you,
you
man.
guys. So,
Appreciate it.
keep it going. Thanks for not calling in sick. What's the over under on Doug being moved back to the bench next year versus him just getting outright
It's not
fired?
happening. He's not going to be on the bench next year. I would say that would be highly unlikely, in my opinion. I mean, unless if he's not named head coach, I doubt very much he would be on the bench. I would find that highly unlikely.
Interesting. So then that just tells me or makes me think that for sure he's going to be head coach, but are we just going to endure and just go through a big tanking season and win like 30 games and then hopefully get something? Or are they will Vivek actually pull the trigger and say, well, he can use Perry as the fall guy and say, Perry didn't like Doug, so we had to get rid of him.
Yeah, BJ, here's what I would hang on to about next season. We have not legitimately seen this group of players with a true point guard for 3 years. Maybe
Okay.
that is the missing ingredient that I'm not saying wins you 20 more games, but brings a much better product and brings better production out of the guys in their natural positions, which they haven't been as of late.
You know, I watched a little bit of highlights when I got off of work, and I saw a pretty good point guard playing in Miami. Man, he looks so familiar, and I just
what's
love
his
his
name?
game.
Yeah,
Man,
yeah.
he actually
Davion
did.
Mitchell's playing really well, man. No doubt about it.
Isn't it like I hope Carter? I hope the rookie could at least get to somewhere in that stratosphere because
He
that's
gets pretty good.
it's kind of sad.
Let this be the lesson because you're about to go through it with Keegan Murray. Keegan Murray came from
Great point.
structure when
Yeah.
he was in college,
Great point.
and he excelled. Same thing with Davion Mitchell, the Heat, the epitome of structure. Eric
Yeah.
Spoelstra, and he's excelling. So learn your lesson through Davion
Hey,
and not Keegan too.
We appreciate you calling the show, man. Always good talking to you.
I love you
Thanks,
guys.
DJ.
You guys keep it rocking.
Thank you, bud. Appreciate it. Yeah, Davion Mitchell has been tremendous for Miami. Yeah, they're up against a very difficult challenge. They had a nice comeback against Cleveland, but fell short. But Davion Mitchell, you made a good point. Jerry Reynolds always says that. Don't give up on point guards too early.
How many times did he sit here last season and say, I feel like another destination or two? He reminds me of a Kyle Lowry, Napes, and I mean, not quite there yet, but he's on his way. I'm happy for him.
Yep, I'm happy for him too. Absolutely. Hey, want to tell you about every opportunity that you have. If you want to sponsor this show, get in touch with Rhino, get in touch with me, the same way that Connor with Element Mortgage did. And Connor with Element Mortgage is a guy that you can trust. He is somebody with a lot of experience. Connor is really, I'm trying to put this in the right words after talking with him and getting to know him. His whole background, this is what he was made for. And again, I talk about trust and I talk about experience and how many homes that he has closed over his career. And then I look at the team behind him at Element Mortgage, over 100 years of combined experience. Yeah, when it comes to buying a home, selling a home, whatever the case is, get from Folsom and a big Kings fan. Get a hold of him. That's Connor with Element Mortgage. Did I lose my mic there for a minute?
You did. You
Oh.
did. I thought that it was maybe just me. And by the way, if you need your house moved, he'll just pick it up and move it for you.
Yes, that's
too.
right. So, Connor, if I lost a little bit of that message, give him a call, 916-505-1006. I think we're seeing a very mixed reaction on the press conference today. I'm not a real big, I mean, it's kind of nice when it's an introductory press conference. Pete D'Alessandro's introductory press conference had people in awe. Actions speak louder than words. Scott knows he has a very difficult job ahead of him. He understands that he has a very difficult owner that he's working with, despite what he said today. He's no dummy. He's a very smart guy, bright guy. He knows what he's getting into. He's getting paid handsomely for it. And, he doesn't have a lot of stress. If it doesn't work out, he's on his way.
And isn't that the problem?
Yes, it is the problem. Yes, it is the problem. Yep.
It's not a young guy that's fighting for his first GM job here in the NBA.
Yep.
I got my wife who stood by me for everything. You've said you get to sail off into the sunset, last job.
Yep.
So I want to say one thing to BJ really quick. And I'm completely with you in terms of not organizing the fans to protest, but we get on the national media so much for getting the Kings wrong. If you pay attention to the national media, they are getting the Kings owner right. They are on your side.
Much more so than the local media. I don't know what the deal is with the local media that's so afraid to call out Vivek. Everyone knows what the situation is, but they're too afraid to say it the way it is. I wonder why that is, Rhino.
I have no idea. I mean, maybe Brian Windhorst doesn't need to worry about his credential. In fact, you spoke about Brian Windhorst. I got the soundbite right here. Here's what he had to say about the Kings.
All this change say to you, Brian, about the state of the franchise?
It's not a good organization. I mean, I wish Scott Perry the best. He's our former colleague, very strong executive. Domantas Sabonis gave his exit interview today. Yes. And they said, what do you need to do in the offseason? He said, we need to get a point guard. They just had a franchise point guard.
That Scott Perry was there in the lead up to drafting.
That they let the relationship go south on. I'm sure everybody's got their story, but the relationship went south. They had the executive of the year. The relationship went south. He knew he was getting fired because they already had Scott Perry hired. He knew for weeks he was getting fired. His assistant, Wes Wilcox, left weeks ago to take another job when he was a big part of their rebuild. How many coaches did they go through in Sacramento over the last 17 years? They finally found a coach who put them on the right path in Mike Brown. They liked him so much, they gave him a contract extension last summer, and they fired him 2 months into the season. This is the definition of why they have been a bagged organization for decades. And maybe this new alignment will work. Maybe Doug Christie will work. Maybe they will get another point guard. Just look what they did. I like Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan as people. I like them as players. They can be successful. They were very clearly a poor pairing in Chicago. It did not work. Not for 5 minutes over the course of years. The Bulls moved on from both. The Kings brought them in.
Just eviscerated the Kings.
Yep. I mean, and it's common knowledge. Again, there are no secrets in the NBA. There's no secrets in professional sports. So I wish Scott Perry the best as we wrap this up, because I like Scott and I wish him the best. I'm not anti-Scott. I'm not rooting against him. I hope Scott Perry is successful because that would be great for you as a fan. But I'm very, very skeptical. And I will tell you next week or the week after, I think it will be probably towards the end of next week, next Thursday or Friday, when he announces Doug Christie as the Kings' new head coach. That will be everything you need to know. All right, that this was already determined before he took the job. It was already put on him by Vivek that was going to be the case. And we're going to delay this because we're going to make it seem like that we are talking with other candidates. Well, if that's the case, I want to see candidates flown into Sacramento, and I want to hear about them being in Scott Perry's office doing a formal interview.
I agree with you. Can two things be true at once? If that does end up being the case, that Doug is the coach, can the fans still have faith in Scott Perry? Or do you lose credibility?
In my opinion, it would be diminished quite a bit. That's just my opinion, though.
Yeah.
All right. So tomorrow is the NFL draft. I'm not going to go head to head with the NFL draft, but it will be over around by the time I would normally do my 8 o'clock show. So I'm going to come on at 8 o'clock tomorrow and talk a lot about the first round of the NFL draft. Are you going to do a 2 o'clock show or a 1 o'clock show?
Yeah, I'm planning to do a 3 o'clock show. We
3,
moved the
okay.
King's Court to 3. Stay tuned to my X. It could change because of some travel plans, but we're planning to wrap up the week tomorrow.
All right. Appreciate everyone. Thank you very much. Love the feedback. Love the fact that you are joining us. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Rhino's got his show tomorrow. Again, the time to be determined. I will be on at 8 o'clock tomorrow right here on If You Don't Like That. Have a good evening, everybody. Thanks very much. Bye-bye now.